Okay, I think I probably can run it like that because I cannot see the chat window right now.
We'll watch it for you.
Okay, so thanks for giving this opportunity, Marie. I don't know when we had that conversation that I wanted to come and have a conversation with the group on this topic. Uh, just a full admission, full disclosure. I'm no neuroscientist or have any major, in psychology. So I don't. I'm not an expert in this space, but this is something that I have done to some level with my teams that I work with, and the inspiration actually came from a talk. So. Um, so that is why I wanted to have a conversation on this topic. So yeah, so the topic for tonight is cognitive bias in agile teams, and honestly, I don't know how much time do I need to run through the presentation. So this would be the first time uh, going through this deck. So I'll just keep an eye on the time. How much time do we have, by the way?
Basically an hour-ish.
An hour?
And if
Okay.
folks want to, if there's questions and stuff,
Okay.
we can extend it for those that want to stay. But
An
yeah,
hour.
this says 6 to 8 basically, and we start like 6:30-ish and see what happens.
Okay. An hour. Okay. I'll keep that in mind. Okay. So thanks for making time. I'm your speaker, and I have a slide on my intro as well. If I can go to the next one. I hope it's not blocking my my slide. So this is me. My name is Nawaz Butt. I am right now based in Toronto. And these are three of the, maybe you can call it, the facets of my life. Um, so starting from the agile coaching, like I do coach teams here, been working in this space for a number of years, and right now uh, I am leading a transformation program with one of the crown corporation here for the province. Uh, these are some of the old pictures that I was doing some Kanban activity with the team. Uh, People used to call, I look very boring and dull, but I am a very cheerful coach. So one of the uh, snapshot of that Miro activity that we did last time. We celebrated actually virtually as a team. It was one big implementation that we managed to do in all throughout working virtually in COVID. So that was a celebration. Uh, Outside agile coaching, I do community service as well. I I've been People have been kind enough to invite me to come and give some talks. This is one of those talks that I've been invited to here in Toronto City, uh, and I did as part of my mission. I started a community group. Agile Brigade is the name of the group. You can find me on Meetup, and we do webinars every last Wednesdays of the month. So uh, this community is coming along. And yeah, I am a marathoner, so I did not run for a while now, but this was back. This picture actually is back in 2012. This is in Abu Dhabi, and I have three little ones, uh, Apu,
Mm.
Chalky, and Peppa. So there you go. There are the nicknames of these three, and they are 4, 3, and 2.
No,
And
oh my gosh.
and then this is my details. You can find me on LinkedIn as well, and this is my email address and my contact number. Okay, so let's get into the slides. So what is cognitive bias? So before I jump into cognitive bias, maybe give people maybe a minute or less to type in the chat window uh, to see exactly what everyone thinks. What is a cognitive bias? So let us know what do you think of cognitive bias? Is there any way I can get to the chat? Oh yeah, there it is. Oh yeah. Okay. A small mental program, usually unconscious preconception that affects your thinking, preconditions, perceptual difference based on our experience, what we believe is true and not willing to change, unconscious misinterpretations or misrepresentation, sorry, of the mind uh, and beliefs, preconceived opinion. Yeah, I think everyone has a fair bit of idea of what are cognitive biases. Uh, and I think everyone has it. So, so our brain actually has 100 billion neurons, and if you think it in a computer programming language, we should be able to process around 2 billion transactions per second. That is our capacity as a brain. But despite that, amazing capacity, we still make a number of mistakes when it comes to decision making. So we call this inability of the brain to make good decisions as a bias, and sometimes we use the word like prejudice. So if you Google it, you would find that definition here as well. I think I've just copied that from Google. A cognitive bias is a systematic error in thinking that occurs when people are processing and interpreting information in the world around them and affects the decisions and judgments that they make. So we take shortcuts when we make those decisions, and this is something that is being part of our DNA as humans. Uh, so to understand this a little bit more, we need to go back, when we were hunter gatherers, and then this is a part of our evolution uh, when our life is at risk at every moment. Uh, um, what we were doing is what we were trying to process information as quickly as we can when it is presented to us. So so our brain actually has this gift to be able to have some cognitive bias, so we can make those decisions uh, in a quick and fast manner. Uh, I think that is what we call the shortcuts in our brain. So if we go back, if you're looking at this example, so let's say you are a hunter gatherer and then you are going on your hunting trip, and then after half day of looking for a hunt, you come back, and you're walking back to your village, and then you are now tired, and then you are hungry. But when you are on your way, this thing got your attention. So you are looking at something, you are trying to figure out what is it. It is not moving, but it seems to you that you've been observed. So as a hunter gatherer, you are maybe 100 feet away from this thing. What you going to do? So would you wait, and take out your laptop, and then start googling, like, is this image looks like an image of a of a snow leopard, or it has this kind of eyes, and you're going to analyze the situation, or you're going to make a run for your life. So this ability of our brain to arrive to those decisions quickly um, is part of our, as I said, as part of our evolution, and that is how the brain has evolved with in thousands of years, and that has led to these kind of cognitive biases in our brain. So we all have them. Uh, um, and there are some good and there are some not so good biases. So we're going to speak to some of those biases on the in the talk today. Uh, let's go to the next slide. So this is a how many have read this or sorry has come to know of this book, Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman?
Mm-mm.
Okay, if no one has heard of this book, so
We have a
Daniel
couple
Kahneman,
people.
sorry. Okay, there are people. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Kahneman is a psychologist, and he is a Nobel Prize winner. He published this book in 2011, and this book is the inspiration for this talk as well. Like, so we're going to talk some of the extracts of what he talked about in this book. Uh, so in this book, what Daniel Kahneman has said is he actually has analyzed two modes of thoughts. He called them system 1 and system 2. System 1 is instinctive and emotional, while system 2 is rational, deliberate, and more logical. So, so if you look at system 1, it is like, what we call it in his book, thinking fast. So anything that comes to you automatically through from your memory, and you have no control over it, something that you immediately react to uh, with the power of your brain, is a system 1 activity. So let's try to understand what is system 1. So as an example, if I ask anyone on the call, what is 2 plus 2?
4.
So, so your answer would be almost instantaneous. You did not do any logical thinking around 2 plus 2, and then you process it, and so it was an instant reply to the question. So that is what he described as system 1, where you just you don't need to have second thoughts. It comes naturally to you. System 2 is lazy, what he call it, and that is what he call thinking slow. So system 2 is all about effortful and deliberate, so you can control your thoughts. And this is what you do when you do any logical calculations or any complex calculations. You were supposed to use system 2. So as an example, if I say what is 12 into 23, what is a 12 multiplied by 23? I think no one on this call would have an instant answer to it. So your system 1, even it kicks in, it cannot produce an answer, and then you have to rely on system 2. So you need to go back and then do some math in your head, and then you will arrive to an answer. So before you present that answer, the logical thinking that you did is part of your system 2. So it is kind of a dual operating system in our brain, and there is always a struggle going on between system 1 and system 2. The what he said is, for the survival of the human species, system 1 is critical. I just spoke to it in the earlier example, where you need to have you need to make a run for your life. So that is part of your system 1. But what he says in his book is, the problem occurs when system 1 is influencing system 2 decision in an unfavorable way, or when system 2 is completely left out of the decision making process. So let's try to understand this with an example that he talks about in the book. Uh, so this is a riddle. I think it has been very popular, but this is something that he has used in his book as an example as well, in the very early stage of the book. So a bat and a ball cost $1.10 in total. The bat costs $1 more than the ball. How much the ball cost? Anyone has an answer? What is your first instinct?
My first instinct, without thinking about this, would be going, oh, bat cost $1 more. So the ball cost 10 cents.
It's not right.
How about the other? How about?
And I know it's not right, but I was like, that's my
What
first
about the rest
instinct.
of the group?
Yeah. First instinct.
Right.
Yeah. So I think so when you have second thought, so the first thought was the ball cost 10 cents, but when you think about it, because it is it says the catch is the the ball costs $1 more than the ball. So the bat costs $1 more than the ball. So the bat is $5 and the ball is 5 cents. So that is the correct answer, because it doesn't say it costs more $1 than the ball. It says $1 more than the ball. So the instinct, which is system one, if you make that decision with your system one, you would give an answer 5 cents. But if you actually use the logical system two, which is lazy, you would arrive to the correct answer. And I think that is what he was trying to exhibit in this example, that often we use the wrong system at the wrong time. And that is what our brain struggles with every day, every moment. Uh, Actually, this riddle was presented to all the top colleges and universities in US. I think that he named a few, Harvard, and I think there are quite a few named. And this riddle was presented to the students there, and I think overwhelming majority of them got it wrong. So that goes to show that people, no matter where they are, how smart they are, they still make those errors. So the whole idea is that cognitive biases are there. Like we have them and we cannot get away from them. The whole idea is that we need to understand them. So when we understand them, we probably would be able to subvert them or maybe leverage them for our own benefit. So let's go to the. So there would be some activities in this presentation where I would request the group to participate. Uh, so one of these activities is the next one. So this is the Empire State Building. So let me ask you, what is the estimated height in meters of Empire State Building? So feel free to say it or type it, if anyone can read the chat for me.
Are we allowed to use Google?
That would not be a good uh, that would not help in this exercise.
Okay.
uh, in this
300 meters.
300. Okay, any other estimates? I got 300 from one.
I
People who
take
are
that
not
back.
googling can
I mean
participate.
900 meters.
Okay, we have a 300 and a 900. Give me another, maybe at least one more data point.
2,000 meters.
2000 meter. Okay, 300, 900 and 2000. Okay, so
That cannot be, Marie. The tallest building in the whole world is not even 1,000. It's the one in Dubai. It's 900 meters. It's insane. That's one
it's okay.
kilometer.
Yeah,
It's like
for the sorry. Yeah,
Mara, I was
let's.
just making sure you were awake. That's all.
It's pretty.
that certainly got my brain working immediately.
So yeah, we have a 300, I think 900 and 2000 meters, which is excellent. So this is for the first question, and now I would ask the same group. Ideally, I was supposed to ask this second question with another group, but I don't want to complicate this exercise. So let's ask the second question with the same group. So now I'm going to ask you this question. Is the height of Empire State Building taller or shorter than 500 meters? So the people who have answered, or even people who have not answered, what would be their response? Any guesses?
Shorter.
No, I mean, you need to give me a number.
Oh, well, it looks like a yes or no.
Yeah, I think I probably was not clear enough. My apologies. But is the height of Empire State Building taller or shorter than 400 meters? Then you still need to give me a number. If you think it's less than 400, you give me a number less than 400. If you think it's greater than 400, you give me a number greater than 400. The idea is to get to a number.
Okay.
So what is the
300.
number? 300? Oh, you're still sticking on 300? Okay.
700.
Mm-hmm.
You can see I'm not gambling any money on this one, right?
Yeah. Another guess? We need
So
3 data points.
Well, we have 600 from William Sutherland. Mara said greater than 400. Then he's saying 600 as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And
So it
Claire
seems
says
like
500.
yeah. So I think you can see the trend. People are going above 400. Most of the people are using 400 as a reference point and giving their estimates.
Mm-hmm.
I think before, when in the first question I did not present any numbers, you are going on a range of 300 to 2000 meters. So anyways, to kill the curiosity, the actual height is 443 meters with the antenna. So if you see what has happened here, we have used 400 as an anchor to come up with a number, and that is what leads us to the next bias. That is called an anchoring bias. So anchoring bias occurs when people rely too much on a pre-existing information or the first information they find when making a decision. So you are anchoring on something that has been presented, and in this example on Empire State Building, it was the 400-meter height. So when that 400-meter was presented, you can see people start giving estimates around 400 or more than 400. But if they were not presented any number, they have no anchor to 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 have to have a bias in their estimates. So this is the definition of anchoring bias. It's a cognitive bias where an individual depends too heavily on an initial piece of information offered to make subsequent judgments. So there was a study done, and what the study was, it was people were asked to ask the last 2 digits of their social security number. So in this example, you can see one person has a social security number that is ending in 09, and the other person who has a social security number ending as 86. And then what happened in that study, these people were shown number of objects, a number of products, things like computer equipments, bottle of wine, boxes of chocolates. And these participants were asked, are they going to pay the amount that is the last 2 digits of their security number for the product that is being presented? Of course, people in both instances say yes or no. But when in the researchers asked what is the maximum amount the participant would be willing to pay for these products, so you can see that the people whose social security number was ending as a bigger number, in this example 86, they were willing to pay more than the people who have a smaller social security number. In this example, it is $11.73. So you can see the effect of a random, social security number influencing people decision making. It has no correlation with the price of the product or the amount that they are willing to pay for the product and their social security number. So that's how deep the association of anchoring bias is when it comes to decision making process. And we get to see these anchoring biases in like in quite a facets of our life, but I think the most commonly is in the pricing negotiations. I think we all come across these tags all the time, so when we go for shopping, we can see that um, something is on discount. So if 85% is the discount on this product, the anchor here is $79.50. So, and the sale price is $11.56. So I am anchoring my decision on $79.50, not on the $11.56 that I'm going to spend for that product.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many variations in this. I don't know if you have the time to look at all those variations, but what if the 1156 goes back to 7950? Would I be willing to buy that product? Or even if it goes to 4950, would I be willing to buy this product? So there are different variations that can happen, but yeah, the psychoanalysts also perform all these different gimmicks to drive consumer behavior. But this is a very prime example of cognitive bias, which is considered as anchoring bias. So how it affects the agile teams, or even and for that matter, any software development teams. So we have a very commonly known, estimation effort or estimation activity that we do. But if the estimation exercise is unorganized, what can happen is a development team member can influence the decisions of the group by presenting a number before anyone has, presented their numbers or presented their estimates. And what can happen is that even if it is a poorly contemplated inaccurate estimate, people tend to just go with that estimate. So a properly implemented estimation techniques such as planning poker, which I believe quite a few of us have been part of, uh, can teach the team to share their estimates simultaneously and prevent anchoring. So I think that concludes our anchoring bias. Is there any question from in the chat window on anchoring bias? Like, can anyone think of any other anchoring bias that can happen on agile teams or our software development teams?
What immediately comes to mind is, not, well, as an ex-engineer, you're in a room and the loudest voice wins, right? So somebody, how should we do this? And then the engineer says, well, blah, 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 blah. And then everybody goes, huh, somebody might have other ideas, but it just seems like then everybody stops and that becomes the anchor, if you will. And then you might talk about that, but you didn't really go around the room and get other ideas instead,
Yeah.
I witness a lot as a facilitator, a very similar one to what Marie is talking about. If you leading a discussion, even as an hour long or 2 hours long, let one particular person speak. Everybody will position their opinions and their proposals around the first person who spoke in the meeting. I don't know what's the name of this. I didn't know that there was a bias, but that's a kind of anchoring. That's why I always try to start with a silent brainstorming, so that people can sort out the thoughts without being not biased, but pre-framed by whatever frame has been put. That's why good salespeople or managers always start with putting the frame first. They never let you talk. And also the other version I see being used unfairly by many management. Sometimes they're trained for it, especially in consulting, sometimes not, is when they use that for setting targets. They basically do the same thing as one of the oldest tactics in pricing, which is the lower, very far upper bound, and then the real proposal, which is in the middle. I don't remember the name of that one, but that's what a lot of managers do when they want to push you to go for stretch targets. They will position the stretch target as way higher than anything they think is feasible, and then they put the stretch target in the middle and make you think that's the most reasonable one, and then put a slightly ambitious target as the lowest one. While even historically or with probabilistic forecasting, that none of these is realistic. In fact, you should have an even lower one to be sustainable. All teams, or at least in my experience, a lot of teams fall into that trap, and that's an unfair technique, in my opinion.
Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so I think I'll keep going. I'm just looking at the time as well. So okay, so this is another small challenge for the group. So I don't know if can you see, or is my thing blocking your view?
No, we can see you.
Okay,
we can see it, which team is improving.
Okay, yeah, and you can see the graph. So okay, so the question here is, which team is improving? So we have two velocity charts, team A and team B. and then the teams are committing X number of story points. Let's say this team uses story point estimates, and then they are delivering. So the green is the velocity of the team, and the gray is the commitment of the team. So A seems to be trending upwards, B seems to be trending downwards. What is your instinct? Which team is improving?
I'm sorry, Nawaz, improving what exactly?
So which team is performing better than the other team? Let's put it this way.
You want to say that the team that's increasing, having an increase in value is performing better. But in my opinion, it's actually the team that's getting closer to having their velocity meet their commitment. They're completed, because ultimately that's where you want to be, is where you're correctly assessing what your capacity is. So my default instinct is A, but my sort of experiential instinct is B.
I must say I'm highly confused by this because I don't like when people compare story points or any kind of measure across teams. For me, that makes absolutely no sense, and I'm quite radical about that.
Yeah,
I don't think we're comparing absolute values. We're just comparing trends, right?
Yeah, we are talking about the trending here.
Yeah, but the trends themselves mean nothing. What if your objective is to produce? I don't know what these numbers mean. Do they mean I produce more, better quality? Am I paying technical debt afterwards? My argument holds.
Yeah, So this is just to look at the trend of the team. So I think there are ways of looking how the teams are going about delivering something at the end of the sprint. So this is one way of measuring how the team is going about doing things. Unfortunately, I only have the velocity chart in front of us. So I think we have only this information presented to make a decision.
Based on this alone, I think Team B is performing better because at least they're producing closer to what their commitment was.
Yep.
Given all the things that's going on.
Yeah, so I think we have heard maybe three answers. I guess someone has. I think Matt, is it? I think if I got your name right, Matt thinks that it could be A. That was his first instinct, and maybe his second instinct say it could be B. And I don't know who was on the who the other person was that did not like the idea of comparing the teams. So we may be looking at answer C, which is not presented on this slide, but he doesn't want to even compare these two teams regardless. So it is probably in that instance, it is neither A nor B. But I think we can see based on what you think and how you interpret this information, you have a very strong stance of what and how you can read this information. So yeah, so there is no right and wrong answer. The idea is to understand a concept and what we call it as confirmation bias. So confirmation bias is the tendency to search for or interpret and favor and recall information in a way that confirms or supports one's prior beliefs or values. So whatever is close to my value system and my belief system is something that I'm going to use that information for. So I think sometimes people call it blind spots also. So you tend to ignore, and maybe selective information as well. I think the commonly word that is used. We tend to ignore the whole context and the whole information that is been presented, and we became selective and choosy in the manner we want to process that information. So there was a psychologist, Peter Wason. He did a study also in the 1960s, and what he did was he came up with a challenge, and the challenge was to guess a rule that no one knows, only him. And the way the rule can be guessed is that he would give a hint to the participants, and the hint was that he would give them three numbers, and then the participant need to tell them what the rule is. So he actually presented three numbers, three triplets as 2, 4, 6, and he said this series matches the rule. And then he went about, asking people. And what he found was that majority of the participants, when they start attempting to identify the rule of those triplets 2 4 6, they keep on coming back to him as positive numbers, positive examples. So they were guessing, like a 2 4 6, or they're coming up with the 4 8 12 4 8 16, or they're trying different combinations of increasing numbers, uh, just to guess like what his rule is. But anyone can guess what the actual rule was? 2 4 6. So what he was trying to what his actual rule was, the three ascending numbers. So it could be anything that is ascending is the rule of that triplet. He uses 2 4 6 just to see the confirmation bias in people, because 2 4 6 make us look like even numbers. There is a certain trend to it, certain sequence to it. So people were trapped in that, in their belief and in their the prior belief and values, or in their confirmation biases, to cannot even see the trend. uh, so that happens to all of us all the time, and I think we've been all guilty of confirmation biases. I am myself guilty. So what happened is that uh, when an information is presented, around an issue, what you would do, you would try to interpret that actually uphold your existing beliefs or your existing idea. So when I came to Canada, this is in Ottawa, uh, and it was late winter in March, and I was just wondering, like, is Ottawa the coldest capital on the planet? So I mean, I was just trying to affirm or confirm my belief that this is the coldest place on the planet, the coldest capital on the planet. So the problem is that when you are using selective information, and you are using social media and search engines, you would get presented only that information that you are filtering those systems on. So you would only get presented that information. So there is a commonly no there is a practice that is called Google the opposite. So you need to understand that what doesn't work before you can identify what is working and why. But I believe we all fall trap to a confirmation bias in some ways. So how it applies to agile teams. So there are certain things that you can do to overcome and avoid confirmation bias. So as we know that it's our tendency to ignore information that contradicts our beliefs. So we all have kudo card walls. I have even now virtual kudo wall for the teams I'm working with. But how about a fail wall to actually balancing the act of celebration and failure? Another example that you can use, or you can talk about, is the story map, which involves interactions. So people come and participate, and then when people are actually having a collective work around story mapping, you can build a shared understanding, and 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 in the group, and you can start to help your group gain a stronger sense of perspective. So story mapping is a very is an exercise that you can do to overcome confirmation biases in the team, especially the team that are very much product centric, and product development teams. Uh, has anyone watched World War Z here? Yeah.
What is this?
World War Z, the Brad Pitt movie.
Oh,
It's a good movie.
It's a zombie apocalypse.
Zombie apocalypse, yeah.
So there is a thing called the 10th person rule. That rule has been talked about in the movie. So there is an Israeli agent in the movie that it was explaining to Brad Pitt, the character in the movie, that Israel is far better prepared for a zombie outbreak than the rest of the world. And the reason he gave to Brad was that there is a 10% rule in Israel. So the Security Council, they have 10 advisors, and then they look at all the issues. And if the first 9 dismissed an issue or a potential danger, the 10% was forced to overrule them on principle and look into the issue no matter how far-fetched the scenario. So it is just like playing devil's advocate. So confirmation bias can be overcome if you look things critically. So critical thinking, and there are certain activities you can do, and I can further segue into uh, um, other facilitation techniques that we can use on agile teams to not fall prey to confirmation biases. There is a very well renowned liberating structures is very well renowned in the agile space. You can use some of those structures to facilitate your retrospectives or your brainstorming meeting. And six thinking ahead is also a very famous and popular technique that you can use. At it kind of create a canvas uh, uh, for the people to think in different situations and in different ways, uh, and not be not to have biases uh, uh, around a certain problem. So their perspectives are well rounded. And I don't know if anyone has heard. Bono is the one who created this technique. This talk is not about six thinking technique. It merits another talk itself. But what you do in this six thinking hats is that you wear different hats at different times, and you think in that manner as a group. So blue is the process discussion, white is facts, which is what information is available and what are the facts. Then red is all about feelings. Green is about creativity. You think outside the box. Yellow is benefits. You identify the benefits and upsides of the perspective that is being presented. And black is critical. You assess logical and realistic reasons. Uh, so this, as I said, this created a canvas for you to think out of the box, think in different dimensions around a problem to arrive to a better outcome. So six thinking ad is a good technique that you can use. Anyone has anything to add to a confirmation bias on agile teams? Any other confirmation bias that you have seen, and ways you have managed or overcome confirmation biases on your team?
Sorry, Nawaz, how does story mapping help against confirmation bias?
So confirmation bias, is as I said, it is building on your beliefs and on your value system. So if it is like a product development, and then you kind of like a bias in your approach in the manner you want to build that product, and then you don't have a participation from the team that is actually building that product, you tend to lose you tend to get that confirmation bias, because it is probably your one person as a product manager. Let's say in this instance, it is as one person who has maybe more influence on the manner you want to build that product. So you fall in love, and there is another bias coming next. I'm going to talk about it. It is coming in another 10 minutes. That you fall in love with the things that you are working on or you are creating. So just to have more broader perspectives and have more participation in the team, story mapping is one exercise you can do. And it is probably not the only exercise you can do. There are things that you can do to engage the team to overcome confirmation bias. So that is the way I see a story mapping could avoid a confirmation bias, but it can avoid other biases as well. These biases are quite a few. There is a last slide on the number of biases we so far identified. So they tend to have some overlaps. So story mapping in itself can overcome quite a few biases. I was just trying to find some association with confirmation bias there. Okay, so I think we can move to the next one. Okay, so Becky Crocker case study. I was hoping to play the video, but I think we probably running out of time here, so I will just go fast on that one. So in 19, has anyone heard of Betty Crocker? I did not. I just came to know. Okay, so someone, Nancy, knows it.
Yeah.
You know this case study?
No, just I know Betty Crocker.
Okay.
I got a cookbook.
So Betty Crocker in the 1950s was actually in a crisis. So this is a very vintage, case study. They actually introduced an instant cake mix in the 50s, and it seems to them that that this product is a winner, but it struggles to sell through on the shelf. So the General Mills, the company actually brought in Ernest Dichter. He's a very well-known, motivational speaker and a psychologist as well, and an expert, I think, in psychoanalysis, to come and assist them that what is wrong with this product. So what Dichter actually discovered was that the instant cake mix is too easy, and the bakers when they actually bake that cake using the mix do not feel engaged. So what he suggested to General Mills was just remove the powdered egg and instead ask the people to mix their own eggs into the mix. That would give them a sense of engagement as well as ownership. So what Betty Crocker did was to actually they redid the recipe of the instant mix, and and uh, and long story short, the product was a big hit. So only changing the ingredient of adding people add their own eggs, completely revamp or change the outlook of the product. So but why did this solution work so well? Only adding eggs. Like the only thing that they changed was adding eggs. Add your own eggs in the instant mix, and then you can bake those cakes. So this behavioral science principle is known as IKEA effect, and it is of course known for the famous Swedish company IKEA, because I think they are known to ask you to go and take your pieces together and assemble your own furniture. So that is the name is driven from. But that is what this bias is also known for with this name, IKEA effect. So IKEA effect is a cognitive bias in which consumers place a disproportionately high value on the product they partially created. So you tend to fall in love with your product or your creation. So that is known as IKEA effect. Any companies come to mind that do that other than IKEA?
Radio Shack.
All the do-it-yourself chains, they're
Yeah,
huge. That's why males as well as females are in love with them. Males love to build gardens and furniture and build up their, I don't know what people put their cars.
Yeah.
And
So Lego is a very famous company. Lego does that.
Oh, right.
You take your blocks and you build whatever you want to build. Build a bear workshops. My sister, my 5-year-old, I took her before COVID, so you can make your own toy. So I mean those type of shops. I mean where you get a sense of ownership. People go to things to bakeries and they bake their own cakes. I mean there are so many other businesses around where you could do that. So it is also significant for the development teams, because what we really value things that we made up. So what we need to do on Agile team is to gather data, do user research, and look for techniques to look at things critically. So there are certain things that we can do on Agile teams anyone on software development teams to overcome this IKEA effect. So it is not by all means a solution to IKEA effect problem or biases, but yeah, a participation. One of the strategies that we have used in this organization that I am on, that we invite team members who are not part of the creation of the product to evaluate the product. So we do these with other product with the team that are working on other products, and then we do cross talk, cross pollination across product teams. So they come and judge us that if we are doing what we are doing, and then we take feedback from them. So that is one way of doing it. But yeah, on this slide, anyways, I say participation or participatory decision making or dot voting is another way of doing it. So you hear all the voices and all the stakeholders. Then you have programming is also not spared of it. So we are in software development. So each line of code you write is an amalgamation of your creativity, time, and effort. So we fall in love with our code. And me having a developer background, I can tell you that yeah, we are very particular and very much attached to the line of code that we write. So how to overcome these IKEA effect there? Like, so people use different techniques, like you can do pair programming. In this example, anyways, people are doing mob programming. So that could be very effective. You actually come together as a team, and then if you cannot do pair programming or mob programming, you can do code reviews. That is a great way to for the other developers to provide feedback on your work. So that probably mitigates or somehow circumvent the IKEA effect bias in the team. And then of course the famous this is one of the Kanban board, but you have a development, and then you have a QA, and then you have a UAT. So again, it's like code review. We are the monitors, and then there are monitors on top of those monitors. So so you can do certain validation of the product at different stages, just to have those biases not kicked in when we are building up the products. So okay, how much time we have, Marie? 10 minutes? You are on mute.
Mute, Marie. You're on mute.
About that.
God, I just said some really remarkable shit. Damn it. Sorry for my cursing. I guess I would look to the audience. It says go to 8, but you started at 6:30. Nawaz, how much time would you like to take to finish your subject? And let's see if that works.
Yeah, I mean, I would make the decision. If we have only 10 minutes, I would not ask the people to go into the breakout room. Then I would rather have them in the group, and then don't spend time in the breakout room then, if we have 10 minutes only.
So real quick in the chat, 1, if you have the 10 minutes, 2, if you can't spare the time, you need to end at 7:30. So real quick, just people throw a number in real fast.
Here we go.
1, past 7:30, 2, stop at 7:30. Okay, so it looks like everybody wants to stop at from what we're seeing here, 7:30 looks like majority. So
10 minutes.
Yeah, we got about 10 minutes ish.
Okay, so maybe quickly what we can do is maybe spend 3 minutes on this exercise. So just grab a pen and a paper, or maybe if you have an Excel sheet in front of you, if you are in front of a computer, that should be okay. It says trusted 10. I would actually drop it to trusted 5. I would change it to trusted 5. So what you need to do in this exercise, everyone is going to write down in the column. So you are going to draw this kind of a table with the 6 or 7 columns, and the first column on the left is the column that you're going to use, and you're going to write the initial of the 5 people whom you trust the most. but those people are not part of your family.
Okay.
So anyone outside your family, the people who you trust, you just write 5 names there in the column, first column. So I'll give maybe people a minute to, a couple of minutes to write their names. Okay, so I think as you are done writing, or while you are writing, I would open up the rest of the columns. So we have a gender here in the in the second column, then their race or ethnicity, then the third column is education, marital status, and age. I would leave the last column, the other. I think we don't have the time to go that far. So if you can just code your slide, your paper, sorry, in just filling in the blanks. So, and you can use your own coding system. Like gender could be M or M for male, F for female. Race, you can use uh, any term, uh, any short form. Education, same way. Marital status, again, single, married, S or M, and age. So try to fill it quickly. Uh, so is anyone done with the filling in their uh, yeah, you don't need to yeah, this is something that I think you don't need to share with the group exactly what have you seen once you have fill in that table, but do you see any patterns there?
Can you repeat the question?
Like do you see any patterns? Like maybe
Okay.
like maybe if you are a male person, maybe you see only males represented there, or maybe if you are a married person, you only see married people there, or I don't know, like it could be the age or even the race. Like, do you see patterns emerging?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
People
think
like
yeah. Sorry.
people like me, very, very,
Yeah.
I guess that, there's some variability in a couple of columns, but
Yeah.
in most columns, they're like me.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Same here. I have like one outlier who's like half my age and was a very good friend of mine, but everybody else is like me.
Yeah.
Some of them are a little younger, but that's okay.
Yeah, so I think this was supposed to be a debrief, and then and people go in the breakout room and talk about it. This is, I think, the most difficult bias to overcome. It is known as affinity bias. So I think, and I think what we just heard is that we tend to favor people that we feel like that are just like us, or we feel like a connection. Um, it could be attending the same college, or growing up together in the same town, or someone who reminds us of ourselves. So it could be a bit of all of that, but I think that is something that I have no here tool or or tip or trick to overcome. That needs a bigger discussion, and that's where I thought maybe we can have a debrief. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, so I will not spend time on this one. uh, but yeah, I think something is called a circle of trust. There is a whole exercise. If you Google it, there is someone has actually talked about it. Maybe her name is Eric Myers. probably I could be mixing the two speakers. But yeah, the whole idea here is if you think that you know, and then you have people 5 or 10 most trusted people that are like you, and then you have a bigger circle of your acquaintances, and then the customer is outside the circle. So how do you connect with your customer if you are around people like yourself? So where is the connection with the customer? So I mean, this is where you go into the empathy, mapping, and there are certain techniques you can use in UX space. But yeah, it is something that agile teams tend to struggle. Uh, okay, let's go to the next one. This is also on the same lines of affinity biases. Uh, so which one you think might be a CEO here? I hope this is not debated like the last one on the velocity chart.
In the company that
Statistically?
I work for, it would be A, but my bias would have been B. Like right away, just because I came from Hewlett Packard,
Yeah. Okay, so you think A. Why you said A?
Who are you asking?
What
Anybody?
was it you who said A or?
Well, I said A, and that was because the person, if you put blonde hair on there, the CEO of my company would look like her. And
Okay.
she's a rock star, go-getter, put
Okay.
jet fuel on crap. So
Yeah.
But I came
Yeah.
from Hewlett Packard, so B would have been my 18 years. Right?
Yeah.
And statistically, I mean, it's an unfortunate reality that statistically B is your best bet, right?
Mhm.
But I like the use of the word might. Either one of them might be, and I like that idea.
Yeah. So I think what we are saying, I think we probably know what we are talking about here. I think we are stereotyping.
Mhm.
So stereotyping is another bias. I think where we are judging people just by the, I think what they call it, the don't judge the book from the cover or by its cover. So I think that's how we are judging people. We're just judging them by the cover of their looks. So that is and some psychologists believe actually stereotyping is something that you develop at a very early childhood, and this is influenced by your parents, your teachers, your peers, and of course the social media. And so this bias is there. Yeah, just to quickly wrap this one. Yeah, so in this case, the B, I don't know. I think this is an image from Google Images, the guy. But the A is Payal Khadakia Puji. She is the CEO of ClassPass. It's a $1 billion company. Uh, and only in 7 years. So yeah, I think we said it, like, women, and then the stereotypes are so many types. I think only in this example we can see there are 3 or 4 coming up, like, so women have only 37 only women CEOs on the 500 Fortune companies. 90% are dominated by white males, and the average age of a Fortune 500 S&P CEO is 58-year-old. So I mean, yeah, there are a lot of generational and gender and race, and so I mean there are a lot of stereotypes kicking in, even only looking at this picture only. So stereotype is something that is there in our in agile teams as well. So definition we don't need to get to. It is in the 1970s, Toronto Symphony Orchestra was dominated by all male musicians. So they did an experiment in the 70s, and what they did, they actually changed the tactics in the manner they go about conducting their their job interviews. So what they did was the candidates and the judges, they when they were hiring, they have a white screen between them, so they cannot see exactly who they are interviewing. Only this experiment led to a big change in the composition of the Toronto Symphony Orchestra, and I was looking at it. It is now comprised of half male and half females, so it's more diverse. Uh, uh, just doing this experiment, so we do see stereotypes being used in the hiring process a lot. Agile teams can benefit from here. We have different type of stereotypes in agile teams, like, BA can only do this. You are a PM, so you are supposed to have all this, and QA person is, good at that. So there are so many stereotypes even in IT, when we talk about our cross-functional team. So one technique you can use is a team competency matrix. We don't have the time to go into this. This is a management 3.0. You can actually go and search for management 3.0 team competency matrix. That matrix I have used. This is actually one of the screenshot of the activity I did with the team. So when we are forming teams, we talk about, the subject matter, the tools, technologies, process, practices, and soft skills that we need to be able to achieve our project goal or product goal. And then we try to look, people's strengths in different areas, and then try to, build on those strengths. So that is one way to overcome stereotypes in your teams. So it's not a BA, it's a or a techie or a coder. Uh, then you can do brain writing also, to bring in multiple perspectives in the team. 10 things in common is a very famous activity. It's a short activity that you can do, bring in multiple perspectives from the team. Okay, so let's do this quickly. This is the last cognitive bias we're going to look at. I would run a series of slides. I would run through those slides, where, giving you maybe 5 seconds on each slide, and then I would ask 3-4 questions on the slides. So let's see how many of us can get those answers. So try to remember as much detail as you can. 5 seconds for each slide. Okay. I did not stop for 5 seconds. I think I was a little faster. But yeah, so the whole idea is to do a quick memory test. So I think I've gone through a few images. So what we would like to understand from the group, I would ask a few questions on the slide that was presented and see how many of us can recall those facts on those slides. So anyone can tell me what was so there was a traffic light and there was a red light on. Can anyone tell me what was the street name?
9 Avenue. Yep.
9
Yeah,
Avenue, yeah. Correct. Anyone can tell me what was the number on the streetcar?
Mhm.
504?
Correct. How about the attendance, Blue Jays versus Indians game? Okay, so it was 43,190. So I
Wasn't
mean,
very,
sorry.
a very busy image.
Yeah. So I mean, so we can process only so much. So I presented some information to the group, and then we can only recall some flashbacks, some highlights from those images. Not everything we can process. And I think going back to in the outset what I said, 100 billion neurons, and then we don't even have the ability to process, we should have the ability to process 2 billion or near about each second, but we don't. So that is what Mr. George Miller defined as the magical number 7, and he called it magical number 7 plus minus 2. So that is our short-term memory capacity. We can only store 7 to 9 items in that short-term memory. So it is a very precious, commodity. So our brain, when we are scanning that slides, can only store so much and can recall from that memory. So we need to be very, we need to be cognizant of the fact that we have this limitation in our brain to recall so much detail. So this is a there was a experiment done in 1999, I think, by some Harvard professors. I don't have the names of those professors, but they did an experiment. It is very famously known as the invisible gorilla experiment, and there is a book also they wrote later on that experiment. What they ask, has anyone seen that video, the invisible gorilla? Okay, yeah. So the people who have seen it know what I'm talking about. They ask the people to count the number of passes. The people in the white t-shirts are, they are passing the ball to each other. So they were asked to count the number of passes. So people were so focused on counting the number of passes that they did not even notice the gorilla that actually passed through the video. So a gorilla in the middle of the video actually came and then, thump its chest and then left. And then they ask the participants in that study if they have seen the gorilla, and no, more than half of them has no recollection of seeing a gorilla. So the gorilla was invisible to them, because their brain was so focused in counting the number of passes of the people in the white t-shirt. So our brain actually tend to miss out, this is selective information, and we just tend to just remember the highlights. If you remember a long speech, you probably would only remember maybe the jokes that someone has cracked in that speech. You don't tend to remember everything that's been said on the speech. So that is our short-term memory exhibit. How can it affect the agile teams? I think that we know the magic number 7. We want to have scrum teams or agile teams small. So the smaller teams would give us not so much of cognitive load to be able to process that information across people. Daily stand-up is also a good activity to overcome this short-term memory bias, because you have a recollection of what happened yesterday, so you don't tend to forget. And then you can capture your emotions also. This is something I did with one of my teams, happiness index. This is again from management 3.0. It's called Nico calendar. You can have the people capture their emotions every day at the end or maybe start of the day, whatever they like to do, at whatever time they like to do it. So you can kind of have an emotional check-in with the team, as well as having them remember exactly how their experience has been during the sprint. And that can lead to this kind of an activity, which is commonly known as a timeline retrospective. So actually you can go through the in a visual way exactly what transpired in the sprint, and how did we feel during the sprint. And so you can actually have those events captured, and be it positive or negative, but you probably can reflect back on exactly what happened and how it happened with the on the sprint. I just wanted to actually quickly mention this one. So I think I did say there are 188 cognitive biases on this cognitive bias codex. This thing was created by Buster Benson. He's a marketing manager at Slack. And he has categorized all these 188 biases into 4 categories or groupings, and these quadrants actually are coming from the Daniel Kahneman book, Thinking Fast and Slow. So too much information, what should we remember, not enough meaning, and need to act fast. And then you can explore 7 of the biases I discussed are on this codex as well, but there are another 180 odd biases. So you can, I would highly recommend to go and look at this codex. You can find it, and it is it has explanation of all the biases that we have. And that's pretty much it. I think we ran out of time, I guess. Yeah, I think I went over time. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Thanks, everyone.
Oops, oh, wasn't sure I was on mute. Thank you so much. This is really, really interesting. Appreciate you spending your time with us, especially since it's 7:45 here, so 9:45. Are you on Eastern or are you Central?
Yeah, I'm Eastern.
That's what I thought. So it's pretty late there. So really
Yeah.
do extra appreciate you spending time with us. So
Thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hope it helped people to look at another aspect of our work and use a different lens when we go about talking to our teams. Because there is a very commonly thing known. I was trying to find correlation and I haven't yet figured it out. So that's why I don't want to share the correlation between the biases and the psychological safety. The famous study from Google, they talk about the underlining uh, one trait that makes a team a high performing team is all about psychological safety. So I think there are some roots in psychology. I do see some overlaps, but I was hoping to explore some of those common traits between psychology, the biases, and psychological safety. So hopefully once I get there, I would maybe get to my next talk.
Sounds wonderful.
Thanks.
And just for the people that are still left, what is the name of your meetup too? Because you have interesting speakers. You had a great topic last week and I missed it. So,
Yeah, this one is Agile Brigade.
mhm.
Agile Brigade. I don't have the link handy in front of me. Otherwise, I could have dropped it here.
I just threw Agile Brigade in there and it's Ontario. But if you look that up, last month or last week's was about KPIs, and boy, I wished I had been able to go. I had it bail at the last minute. So, folks look that up too. So you never know.
Someone is asking something. Oh, that video? Okay. It is readily available. I can drop it. Okay. Okay. Actually, someone was asking me privately for the video link. So how about I share it with everyone? Let me.
That'd be great.
Betty Crocker. It is available on YouTube. So yeah.
Sounds good. Well, thank you again so much for joining us and sharing your time with us and your information. This was really, really interesting. I wasn't sure what I expected, but boy, I was like, at some point, I'm like, I have to go downstairs. And I said, Nancy, I got to run down. I'm like, oh God, no. I'm like, okay, now I'm going to, no. So I couldn't leave. I was like, I just wanted I needed a 3-minute break. And I was like, I found it very hard to break. So this is great.
Yeah, I actually did this with my teams, some of the teams that I work with lately, and it talks about, and I was struggling, and I was on LinkedIn. I was with some folks in Belgium. I was looking at a ways of measuring psychological safety in the teams. Like we do talk about it all the time, but how can I measure it, and how can I create a culture in the team to have a discussion on psychological safety? So if you bring psychological safety as a term, which is a loaded term in itself, I think it probably kind of put off people. So having a discussion on these lightweight cognitive biases, maybe one at a time, and then have us look at them with that lens on, and then maybe poking at fun at them as well at the same time, and learning from them. I find it very interesting to have those conversations, which I probably could never have had if I was going with a very very firm stance of be very scrummish and very kanbanish, or very uh, even agile values we talk about, and principles. They don't talk about these things. 4 values and 12 principles. I mean, like, those are good and those are necessary for us to be successful in terms of getting a valuable delivery to our business organization. But I think these are really critical for the hygiene and for creating a greater health or improving the health of the team and the culture within the team. So that's what my experience has been.
Yeah, it's kind of eye-opening. So, anybody else have any questions or anything before we wrap it up? All right. Again, Nawaz, thank you so much for joining
Thank you.
us.
Great. Thanks
Thanks.
for sticking with us, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's good
thanks.
seeing you all. You
Take care.
guys take care.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.